March on Washington. Chapter 4. No detail too small. Bayard Rustin had only 2 months to plan what was intended to be the largest peaceful demonstration in American history. His job was to organize a protest on a gigantic scale, without cell phones, computers, the internet, or much of the technology we take for granted today. Within days, he had a tentative plan and a core staff of volunteers. They would be in charge of other volunteers around the country. Both his small office in Washington and the main headquarters in the New York City neighborhood of Harlem received bomb threats every day. Rustin doodled on his legal pad, his yellow legal pad, his brain going a mile a minute. Within 2 weeks, he had a manual and sent it to 2,000 leaders, white and black. It laid detailed groundwork for getting a huge turnout on such short notice. It was a call for action, setting up transportation committees, ways to make the march known, and ways to raise funds. It called for captains aboard every bus, train, and plane. The march was going to cost about $135,000. His staff went after donations from churches, organizations, and individuals. They raised about 2/3 of the money this way. They also sold souvenirs, many thousands of buttons showing a black hand and a white hand clasped together. They held fundraising concerts, or hootenannies, with folk singers like Joan Baez and a new gravel-voiced singer named Bob Dylan. Rustin worked as if he were putting together a huge ad campaign for a new product. The flyers his team mailed out began with the words, "An appeal to you." They sent as many as 100,000 a day, with local phone numbers to call to sign up. There were spots on radio and TV, interviews on TV talk shows, newspaper and magazine ads, concerts, and rallies. Rustin contacted Hollywood celebrities, who used their star power to get out the word. The day chosen for the march was a Wednesday. It needed to be on a weekday. Why? Church groups were planning to come in big numbers, but church groups wouldn't skip their Sunday services. Reverend Abraham Wood said, "If we didn't have the crowd, it would be perceived that we would have flunked." Rustin's organizers went to all the major cities to work closely with local leaders to do the hard work of signing up marchers and getting them to Washington. In all, some 1,500 groups across the country helped. How to get all those people to the Capitol? Cars were discouraged, as parking would be limited. So Rustin's team began lining up enough buses and trains. How would they keep people comfortable? Memos advised marchers to wear low-heeled shoes and to each bring sunglasses, a hat, and a raincoat. Marchers could bring portable stools, and hundreds of folding chairs were to be supplied for the elderly. What about food? It was okay to bring picnic baskets, box lunches, and thermos bottles of water, but no alcohol. The recommended sandwich was peanut butter and jelly. Sandwiches with mayo were not good. They could go bad in the heat. Churches were encouraged to donate lunches. One New York church packed up 80,000 cheese sandwiches, apples, and slices of marble cake. Hot dogs and other food would be sold, with large coolers of soda donated by the Coca-Cola Company. Some 20 portable drinking fountains were rented. Bathrooms and first aid? Rustin arranged for nearly 300 portable Johnny-on-the-spot toilets. He planned to set up 22 first aid stations with 40 doctors and 80 nurses on hand. What route should the marchers take? They were not going to pass by Congress like Capitol Hill or the White House. This was a march about freedom, not politics. Instead, they would walk along the National Mall between two landmarks from the Washington Monument to the Lincoln Memorial. These monuments were connected by a reflecting pool, almost a half-mile long, and a vast lawn. From the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, speakers would address the crowd. Rustin planned an afternoon of inspiring speeches by hand-picked speakers. He soothed the egos of those not chosen. Speeches had to be approved in advance and could last no longer than 5 minutes. Rustin wanted the best sound system available so the speakers' voices would carry clearly for 1 square mile. Otherwise, the crowd wouldn't pay attention. Along the mall, miles of wires were laid to carry telephone, television, and radio lines. Signs of protest. Marchers were given pre-printed signs with Rustin-approved messages in red and blue letters, with the most frequent word being now. Some typical signs said, "I am a man. We demand voting rights now. We demand decent housing now. Gradually isn't fast enough. We demand jobs now. Freedom in 63. Some unapproved signs read, My name is Charlie Jones, Mr. Kennedy, and I can't wait. Carried by a 9-year-old boy. No matter how you polish it, segregation is dirty, rotten, evil. Horses have their own television shows. Dogs have their own television shows. Why can't Negroes have their own shows? A big concern was how to keep marchers safe. Rustin worked with Washington's police chief. A vast security force was on standby. 8,900 policemen, firemen, National Guard, and Army members, and Marines. In case of a riot, they were armed with guns, clubs, and toxic tear gas. 30 helicopters were also on standby, sent to Washington from Fort Bragg. Washington's main hospital had a disaster plan ready. In addition, Rustin assembled a team of unarmed marshals. They were taught how to control a crowd without force. And also there would be leaders on every bus to explain to passengers what to do if someone insulted or hit them. They were to ignore it and not fight back. They should leave it to the marshals to respond. There were to be no acts of civil disobedience that could lead to arrest. Over 500 cameramen, technicians, and reporters were to be on hand, with more cameras than had filmed the last presidential inauguration. For a month, the president remained silent about the historic event to take place in the Capitol. Finally, on July 17th, President Kennedy spoke at a press conference in support of the march. Later, he declined to speak at it, but agreed to meet with the leaders that day. By mid-August, there were no more buses available to rent on the East Coast. All scheduled planes, trains, and buses were filled to capacity. The mall was filled with the sounds of carpenters hammering nails into the speaker's platform on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. Then, on the night before, someone damaged the sound system. Luckily, U.S. Army sound engineers were able to fix it, working through the night. Up in his hotel room, Martin Luther King Jr. also worked all through the night on his speech. The question was, how many people would show up to hear it?